Na leo hii ikiwa ni siku ya Jumapili, tarehe ni 30, nimepiga guu moja guu pili hadi nyumbani kwake mwalimu Fabian. Welcome once again. This is Jared Takom, and today we have a guest speaker in our studio. And before I should say much, let me give him time to introduce himself, tujue ametokea wapi na ni nani, na tuzidi kuzamia zaidi kwa masuala ya siku ya leo.
Welcome. Thank you, and welcome dear viewers. I'm Fabian Wanyama. I'm a teacher of Geography and Business Studies at Kimgui Girls Secondary School. Thank you and welcome for today's interview. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you and welcome Mr. Fabian. Yeah, so mmesikia kwamba ni mwalimu wa somo la jiografia. Maybe nikianza kwamba ni umefanya walimu wa somo la jiografia peke yake ama ni masomo mawili?
Yeah, I've been doing geography and partly business studies.
Partly business?
Yeah.
So it means that business haukufocus sana, you didn't major on business?
Yeah, I don't major on business studies. I majorly deal with geography.
Geography.
Yeah.
So maybe for those people who are watching, maybe they would like to hear ulianzia wapi, where did you started, na hiyo passion ya kuwa mwalimu ulitoa wapi, and now you are a teacher?
So basically the aspect of teaching geography, I started when I was still very young. The fascination of geography I started when I was very young, because when I was born I usually had a lot of questions in my head. Questions like how do we live in a sphere where the moment you move you cannot see the end of the world? So I used to ask myself, what is the end of the world? And those are some of the geographical questions that used to appear in my head. So I loved geography since then. I pursued geography in high school, and I realized that most of my questions I used to ask when I was young, the answers relied in geography, and therefore I delved in geography so that I would find answers. And as I grow, questions also grow, and therefore even as I'm teaching, I'm still having very more questions. And I did not just delve in teaching geography basically because of the fascination of geography, but I also wanted to deliver content about the world, the structure of the world, the interrelationship between a spatial phenomena on the planet, and also because the geography also helps in things like decision making and developing the mental quality of students. So it gave me that ability to understand that teaching geography at some point is also going to help someone somewhere else to develop a dream and also to fulfill it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, as you have heard that amesema he had the passion at the beginning, and therefore he had many questions that he was asking himself and he wanted to understand. So Mr. Fabian, you had passion and you had many questions. Maybe at the moment, have you been able to solve some of the questions that ulikuwa nazo? You are asking yourself that the world is in a sphere form. So have you ever come up to prove that is it in a sphere form ama imekuwaje?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, most of the questions that I had have been answered through my journey of studies, and through journey with geography. Most of the questions have been answered. Although as I was developing to greater levels, or rather to tertiary levels, I realized that more questions appeared. And the questions I used to ask myself when I was still young, I think the answers have been provided by geography. But as I grow older and as I pursue geography further, I realize that more questions appear. For example, now that we know about the earth, what about beyond the earth? So those are some of the questions that even as we speak now, most of the things I'm still doing research on them so that I can now find the answers about them.
Yeah, so thank you so much wapenzi watazamaji, mnaona kwamba that passion in geography actually it's bringing the fruit and the question are being answered. So maybe to take you back, maybe there's someone watching there na he just hear about geography, so maybe if you can just explain in brief what is this geography that mtu anasikia what is geography, if you can explain to the viewers that what is geography in brief, so that as we delve into the topic anakuwa nayo context na knowledge to understand that what is geography.
Thank you. Geography basically deals with the study of earth as a home of man. That's the simplest definition of geography, or rather in layman's language, that's what geography means. But the complex definition of the word geography is just the study of the interrelationship between the spatial patterns and also the phenomena on the earth's surface. You realize that on that definition of geography, it is basically dwelling on the earth surface and also partially the spatial part of it. So geography is a subject that I passionately love geography actually, because geography deals with the environment, it deals with how people interact with the natural environment, how people also interact with themselves, and how the environment is trying to interrelate with itself to sustain human life. And that is all about geography. Even if you look at the environment, that's already geography. So geography starts from yourself. That is geography.
Yeah, so thank you so much. Thank you so much, our professor, who is also called Fabian. He has laid a good foundation in this topic that we are going to discuss about geography. And therefore, on my side, during my times in Kwana, I used to understand that geography is the study of art and human activity. So thank you so much. So we are going to come back in another session as we are going to deep more and more questions. Thank you so much for listening and viewing. My name is Jared. Thank you so much, our listening and our viewers. Welcome once again to Jared Starcom. This is Kibu TV, and as I had told you earlier that this is a show with one of the professors, who is called Fabian, and we are dealing with topic called geography. As a teacher and as a student, we need to understand more and more. That is why you have this guest in our studios today, and therefore maybe to our professor today, maybe if I can ask you that as you being a teacher, what has been your experience so far when you started teaching? Maybe your first post when you went to that school. How has been your experience so far?
Generally, my experience was just as per my expectations. I was expecting that my teaching is going to be successful because actually, passionately, as I said earlier, I passionately love geography, and I was much fascinated with teaching geography. So the first time I appeared in class teaching geography, I remember um, I was very eager to teach actually, and the first thing that I think it was I was teaching about the art, and that was the most vital part of studies of which most students find it hard to understand. And I realized that at the end of the lesson, most students said that indeed I've done something. And actually, I had that passion now, and the passion grew and developed further because being congratulated by a student, and especially concerning a topic that has been very difficult for that student, and he says that, or she says that indeed you have taught, but your teaching has been is exceptionally different from others, and I felt like indeed I can do much when it comes to teaching geography. And my experience in teaching for the first time is that it's not something I dreamed of being a teacher. I dreamed of being a teacher since I was just young, and even when I was still in school, I used to teach my fellow students, and therefore teaching in class for the first time was not something new for me, and I was very confident that I was going to deliver the required content to those students, and indeed I did it, and it was actually effective, and the students were able to understand, and that's why indeed I can say that, and I can confidently say that I loved my teaching, and also the students I taught and the administration also loved the teaching, and I can acknowledge that. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you. So in short, you are saying that you have not met any challenges, any difficulties in your teaching, and maybe at a point you got applauded by one of the students telling you that you've done a great job. We have the good understanding. Yeah, and maybe my another question, maybe to you is that as a teacher, maybe being in class, there are many students there. Maybe from those students, not all of them are clever, right? We have those students that are clever and those that they need to understand, but it takes processes. So maybe what topics, what types of topics that students get to understand them more and more easily?
To understand.
Yeah.
So it usually happens to be different for teachers and for the students in terms of logical reasoning, because you can realize that the topic that a teacher sees to be easy appears to be more difficult to the student, and maybe the topic that a student sees to be easy, a teacher might think that that topic is very difficult to understand. It happened that Earth and the solar system is a topic that most students see to be very difficult. When I taught it, actually, that's when they said that at least they are getting something. But that was the easiest topic that I felt like a student might understand in geography. only to realize that most students, after teaching for a while, I realized that most students like theory part of geography other than the practical aspect of geography and also the mathematical part of it. So the theory part of it, mostly they would like choosing topics like the environmental part of it, topics like rehabilitation and of course topics which just needs reading other than analyzing and other than having the mathematical calculations and also maybe cartography. Most of those topics you realize that the students did not like them that much, but they really liked the topics that are just all about straightforwardness, in that as far as the content has been delivered is just reading and understanding, and there's no other complex reading.
Yeah, so it means that you as a teacher, it's very hard to know if the students are they're understanding, because for you, everything for you is so easier and simple. So to identify it's very hard. Now, maybe if I can ask you that maybe during your time there in school, apart from your experiences, there are challenges that you face when teaching, especially specifically geography. Maybe you are in class after teaching, after exams. Have you ever got disappointed, or what are some of the challenges that you experience when teaching geography?
Thank you. In geography, teaching geography, I think so far there are three major problems or rather challenges that I've been facing as a teacher. Challenge number one has been resources, especially the resources for field work, because you realize that as teachers we need to take students for field, because each topic has a field work, a field study, and you have to take students to the field to see the field. So for example, you are teaching a topic about physical features and maybe you discuss about the Menengai crater. You have at least to get some time and resources to take the students to the Menengai crater to see some of the physical features and some volcanic formations around the Menengai crater. But realize that most schools do not have enough resources to facilitate such trips. That's one of the challenges. Challenge number two is that some students find it hard to understand geography. You realize that some students just have the negative attitudes towards geography. So as a teacher, you have to find a method of teaching that will be able to, the teaching that will be effective for this learner, so that the learner will be able to understand. And realize that at times we have fluctuations in those methods, because I will not use the same method I used yesterday to teach tomorrow, and I also not use the same method I used to teach the previous lesson, teaching the next lesson. So realize that as a teacher you have to be more creative. We ensure that you find the required method of teaching and also the best dimension of teaching the students. And then lastly, basing on the Kenyan positions right now, we realize that we also have a problem in resources, teaching and learning resources. We realize that in a school where geography is pursued, averagely a school should have a globe, a school should have a map, a school should have, that's a word map. A school should also have some other instruments. We have the graphical boards, we have the remote sensing, resources, and also we have the geographic information system resources or other softwares, which most schools do not have. So we realize that some of those things are also challenges, because we realize that the moment you want to teach something, and maybe you would like to use something about or something with remote sensing, or maybe you want to use you want to teach based on the past, and therefore there's some archives that you're supposed to go and look at some of the things that happen. You realize that most schools do not have. So you just have to use your head to convince a student that this is how the globe looks like. But there's no way a student will be able to see that indeed this is a globe. So I think that's also another challenge. Resources, teaching and learning resources are also a challenge in our schools today.
Yeah, so from those challenges, maybe to the government, you as a teacher, because you are a veteran in that field, you have had so many experiences. You have experienced the challenges here and there. So, what changes would you like to see in geography curriculum in future?
So in geography, generally the curriculum of geography, I would suggest the government to majorly, if it will be possible, to do two main vital things in geographical curriculum. One, I would really love if the government would integrate the interdisciplinary uh, curriculum, so that geography should not just be looked at as a subject. Geography should be fused with some other topics, like, or rather there's some other sub aspects like astronomy, like meteorology, so that we don't just study about the earth. What about we also talk about the neighboring planets? What about we also talk about Venus? What about we also talk about Mars? As soon as coming up with knowledge, knowing that indeed, despite the fact that we are on Earth, there's also another planet somewhere, and he also knows the characteristics of that planet and some of the things and features that are found on that planet. What about we talked about Jupiter? Is it really a planet or a planet of gases or water? So a student is able to understand such things, still the curriculum version of it, so that if he or she has to pursue it further, he understands or she understands that there are some other things that, despite the fact that they have been touched upon by the curriculum, but there is more research that is required. And then I will suggest number 2 is that geographically we need to integrate our technology. We should not just talk about geography as sitting down and looking at trees. No, we should integrate the technical part of geography so that we deal massively and extensively on the GIS part of it, the geographic information system. We fetch data, we understand how the world is moving on. We talk about, we analyze the geographical features. We use technology. We don't just analyze things using eyes. For example, if we have to assess a certain forest, any invasion, we can use a geographic information system or a resource, a remote sensing module to understand how the invasion has happened, to be in a position to adjust to the prevailing circumstances. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you so much. And you have talked about the planet, and these are it's a study of astronauts, amen?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So planets. When I was still back in school, I heard that planet Pluto was not existing. Has it been removed from the studies today, or is still existing? Maybe just for the najua si la maana sana, lakini maybe tu kwa wale watazamaji wanaangalia wanataka kujua pia planet Pluto bado ipo ama mambo yalienda hivyo.
Pluto is considered a planet, but for something to be called a planet, it has to have some characteristics. For example, for the Earth to be called a planet, point number 1, it must be in a position to be large enough to be held by on its own gravitational pull strength. When we talk about gravity, we are talking about the forces that are pulling materials towards the center. And then point number 2, a planet should be able to orbit around the sun. And then I think the last thing is that for a planet, for something to be called a planet, it should also be in a position to be great enough for it to be called a planet. So the Pluto part of it is that Pluto was spotted as a planet, but after further studies, Pluto was disqualified from being a planet because point number 1, Pluto was not orbiting around the sun at an accurate angle that it could be recognized as a planet. It did not have a clear orbit. It was just moving around. And then it's also not studied that much about the gravitational pull of Pluto, but I think that's also part of it.
Yeah, so thank you so much. Actually, it's been a wonderful talk, and maybe to just finalize, maybe there's someone watching you there, a student or just a teacher like you, and maybe a word of advice that you can give him or her, maybe to mentor him, to build him in this career and in this field of geography. Maybe what can you tell them?
So for students, geography is easy. Geography is not as hard as we think. We realize that most students hear the topic called rocks, and most students just assume that if you tell somebody about geography, someone basically thinks about rocks. And I realized that the reason why most students think about rocks being difficult is just because of its nomenclature. The nomenclature part of the of it, those names of those rocks, we have the diorite, the bauxite. So as a student, spelling it is difficult, and therefore how will you expect him or her to write it in exam? That's the reason why most students fear geography. But I have to tell you that geography is the simplest, one of the simplest subjects that will exist, because geography is all about you and the environment around you. Geography is just about where you stay. That's why I told you that I started having those curiosities when I was still very young, because though I never knew geography. Remember, in primary we studied something called social studies. So by then I was studying social studies, and social studies was just, it was history and geography. But the questions I asked myself were basically geographical questions. The environment: why is this tree drying up? Why are we never running to the end of this world? What will exist beyond what I can see? Those are some of the questions that appeared. Geographical questions. So that's geography, where you are. Ask yourself where you are. That is geography. And I used to see when I was in high school, geography papers, answers will just come from the environment I'm in. Any question, just look outside, you see the ants. Look outside, see the ants. Because geography is all about nature. I said geography is the study of earth as a home of man. You are the man and you are on earth. So you are geography. Simple. So what I will tell a student is, point number one, geography is very simple. Pursue geography, take it seriously, study it, integrate, go beyond the books, study and do research. And then point number two, I will tell students is that be curious to understand things. There are some things that, for example, you see something happening, always have that fascination of asking why it's happening. That's the mind of a geographer. A geographer cannot just look at something and they say, the road is not part of my business. No. Anything happening, even if it's in your environment, like at home, you can realize that at home, a tree might just start drying up. Ask yourself, why is that tree drying up? That is geography. That's having a geographical mentality. Because you can see a tree drying up and just assume that's just a normal thing. Maybe that tree is drying up because of your waste disposal, which is maybe causing global warming. And you are assuming. A geographer must be curious, because one of the essential importance of studying geography is to solve environmental problems. So if your home has a problem, an environmental problem, it is your responsibility as a geographer to solve it. So how will you solve a problem if you don't know it? And how will you know a problem if you can't ask yourself, why is this happening like this? Why is this happening like this? And then lastly, those who are still pursuing geography, I can also tell them that geography is a good subject. And we should not take geography just as a subject. Geography is not just a subject. Geography is beyond the subject aspect of it. You realize that I am a geographer personally, and I have been studying geography beyond books. And in my geographical journey, I have also been in a position to study astronomy, cosmology, meteorology, and physics. So if you see all these things together, you realize that you'll come up with something that looks like, because once you fuse physics and cosmology and astronomy, you are in space. So diversifying geography in a way that now it looks like you are doing a research on something. Like for example, I have written a book. I've written a book on visitors in shadow. That's a book written by me. It's online. You can find it. Website. You can also find it on just search Fabian the artist. You can also find it there. But that book, the curiosity that I had writing that book, I think is basically geographical. I had a lot of questions because I used to wake up at night, look at the sky, and then I see stars, and then I see the moon, and I could ask myself a question: what is the distance between the earth and that moon? And how comes the stars will appear at night and they do not appear during the day? And how comes the sun is always shining more than the moon? Those are the questions that I used to ask myself. Then we research, and then I also ask myself a question like, would there be a planet like Earth somewhere else? Like we are living here as human beings. How about there's another planet somewhere else? People are also living there, doing research. That's a geographical mind. Doing research, ask yourself questions, and don't just ask yourself a question and then sit down. Ask yourself a question, answer that question. That's a geographical mind. And then lastly, to students is that once you take anything positively, you succeed in it. If a student takes geography seriously, studies it, loves it, you cannot fail exams. You can never fail. But when you look at the environment, there are answers all over. Look, I'm not talking about rocks being a hard topic. Rocks are one of the simplest topics in geography. It's just all about names. And names should not give you a hard time. After all, a human being's mind has 1 terabyte storage. You can as well store a lot of information. So that's my advice to students actually. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I hope all of us have benefited, and the viewers and those who are listening, we are all benefited. And therefore, for students, as you have heard the message that you need to focus, you need to have that passion, you need to work hard always. And therefore, the topic called rocks, I remember, I did it. I remember gabbro, cyanite, granite. They are very easy things. So therefore, you are just asked to study, and all shall be well. So from Kibu TV, we thank you for watching. Back on your studio. Kutoka kwake nyumbani Mwalimu Fabian, mimi ni Jared Onyango.